right now.
Hello and welcome to episode 1015 of the Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, February 18th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Just making sure it was still morning where I am, and it is. We're both coming to you in the morning. How have you been? How's your week?
Week's going all right. Been fighting a cold, and yeah, my kid got some sort of respiratory infection. Not COVID.
That's good.
Still not COVID. So, but been fighting that. Was up really late prepping an article for next week, and dropping an article for today on relief pitcher ADP. So, yeah, it's I'm a little tired this morning, a little sluggish, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk about our fades.
Yeah, let's fight through and talk some fades here. Gonna get a little negative, but there's always some guys out there that you're just not getting based on their market price, and maybe just in general too. Sometimes the market price doesn't even really change things. If you're super out on a guy that he could fall and you'd be like, no, still not getting it. But obviously, we're going to focus on the price at hand right now. We're going to go position by position, except for relief pitcher because it's still such a mess, and talk through some guys that we're kind of off on. Obviously, I wrote an article a week or so ago about 5 guys I'm just taking off my board. That is definitely something that's being discussed a lot more. Is culling the draft pool depending on what kind of league you're in, and really understanding the players that you want per round. So this is just running through and talking about some guys that we're not in on, and hey, maybe there'll be a discussion that changes a mind or two one way or the other. But let's get in to catcher, and we'll start with guy who I had on that list of 5 that I'm taking off, and it's Sal Perez. And this one's pretty straightforward. I think even those that are in probably have a firm understanding of why people are out. They're choosing to stay bought in. And for me, this gets into the weird projections and the way replacement value at catcher is treated. Because when I wrote that article about how, these are 5 players I'm removing, there was a comment about somebody who said they did a 180 on Sal Perez. They were out, and then they said, you know what? Actually, I'm in because even if he only puts up his 2016 season, that would be worth like a 35th or 40th best hitter in their projections or something like that. To me, that doesn't add up. I understand replacement value, and I understand that you can have an advantage at catcher, but Sal Perez's 2016 is basically what Wilson Contreras is projected for. And I got to be honest, that person's projection system isn't too far off the bad X, because where do you think Wilson Contreras ranks in the bad X? He's 31st.
Yeah, we talked about this before, so I didn't want to act like I already knew the answer.
He's 31st with the line. And for reference, Sal Perez's 2016 is 22 homers, 64 ribbies, 247 average, and 57 runs. And I hate to show my ass about how little I understand the inner workings of projections. But I'm sorry, if I draft Sal Perez and that's the season I get, I am livid. I'm not thinking like, oh, well, he just hit the low end and he's still worth a top 40 hitter. And again, I inherently understand the value of catcher and how you can get an advantage there with having 2 good catchers. I don't know that I can get to the spot where Wilson Contreras' actual talent yields minus $4, but because of the position adjustment, he's a $19 hitter on our auction calculator.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm fading the most.
Sorry, I was talking about the Wilson Contreras one. Sal Perez actually is even higher. Wilson Contreras I reference only because of that 2016.
Yeah, no.
But Sal Perez is 10th from the bad X at $31.30, 10th hitter overall.
Yeah, I have a really hard time taking a catcher that early.
Yeah. And for reference, what's Sal Perez is going 34th.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing him go in the second round. I think as relief pitcher has risen, not rised. As it's risen, we're seeing him dip into the third round. The last time a catcher was going this high was in 2018. That's what I was just looking up for those of you who might be watching. And why? I was like, turned away from you while you're talking about that. So 2018. Do you remember who it was that was going that high? You can actually going higher than this.
Was it not JT? JTR?
It was not.
I'm
GT
blanking.
Remoto was going 108 in 2018.
Who was it?
But there was a catcher going 18th or 19th overall.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Why am I forgetting this?
It was Gary Sanchez.
Oh my God. Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, Gary Sanchez is largely, due to performance that he obviously didn't return that value and hasn't returned any value pretty much since.
Because he had that disgusting 2017, 33 homers, 90 ribbies, 278 with 79 runs.
Yeah.
Do you know what he did in 2018?
Oh, I doubt he hit his body weight.
Not that. Yep. 186, 18, 53, 51.
Yeah. I remember I think a league like taking him in the second round.
I think I jumped in pretty early that year too.
Yeah.
In one of my leagues, thinking, I got so much wiggle room. Same principle that people are applying to Sal. And listen, I don't think Sal Perez is going to fall off to that degree. That commenter, like I said, referenced his 2016, which is a pretty pedestrian season, and was saying like, oh, it still checks out as a top 40 season. Maybe in your auction calculator with your catcher replacement value, sure, but boy, if I'm taking a catcher that high, I need the stats. I can't just go off of the quote unquote value. I don't know. And I'm sure the projection people that are really in the weeds on it will tell me I'm an idiot,
and they'd be right.
I can't get there. I can't get there.
Yeah, they'd be right. We're definitely dumb, but at the same time, like catchers get hurt so often, man. I really can't make that argument to myself that he should be going in the third round. If he falls to the fourth round in a league, I'll take a peek. I've drafted Real Muto a few times. I've drafted Will Smith. Like, I'm totally okay taking like a top 6 or 7 catcher.
Same, yeah.
But I like I mentioned to you, like if I don't get, a top 6, 7, 8 guy, that I really like, I'll probably wait. I'll wait a while.
Who are you getting then though? You gotta be careful not to go too far, because then you are taking negatives.
Well, that is a good question. And
if you're going Eric Haas, Jacob Stallings, you're taking a hit.
No, I'm not going those guys, but
okay. I just picked out two guys that I would think is not a good combo.
Yeah, and of course I'm having a hard time getting to the right page, but let's see.
Are you talking Omar Narvaez, Carson Kelly, Max Stassi? Are you talking about guys like that?
Yeah, I think those guys. I think those guys are fine. I'm trying. Jorge Alfaro's on over 50% of my teams. Though he's probably not a catcher one on most.
You're just hoping he plays some of that outfield, huh?
No, I mean they traded for him, right?
No, I know. I'm just saying, like non-catching catcher all day. Give me.
Yeah, and I tend to spread out my catchers quite a bit. So like I'm not usually very highly invested in any catcher.
Yeah.
Because they get hurt, and as much as I like Sal Perez, and I think he's obviously a huge boon for anybody who drafted him last year, I was not one of those people that I can remember taking him. And I know he's been kind of just like a horse in terms of production. You just wonder how long he can physically do that.
Yeah. And I mean, he was amazing in 20 as well. That's the thing. Like Sal Perez didn't just come out of nowhere this past year. He, if you're a Sal Perez believer, you might have seen the 37 games from 2020 and said, this is the start of an emergence here, and I'm going to keep it going. And then you got 48, 121. That's amazing. Like, it was truly amazing. He doesn't need to do that. I will fully grant that. That's obvious. But, I mean, what did he change that says that he's now this guy or even all that close to it? Well, I mean, it looks like his homer to fly ball ratio is through the roof. So that's good.
I mean, do we really project him for like 600 plus plate appearances? I know he got it in
the projections are, which that's wild for a catcher.
He has not had a season in which he got 550 or more since 2015. I think last year was inflated because 2020 was so short. He was injured also in part of 2020, but not with like a leg. It was like an eye infection.
So they just grinded him down to a pulp last year.
Well, he was fresh.
Yeah, exactly. They could just play him.
Will he be fresh coming off of that many innings behind the plate?
These Sal Perez projections too get me. I'm surprised that they're so hot. Like they're essentially mid-30s homers and just about 100 ribbies, with the bat even going 40-106. And like that's so robust. So, it justifies what people are doing. They feel like, oh, well, even the projections like him. He's just not for me. He's just not for me. I can't get there with Sal Perez, and you can't either. We both put him on our list here, so we're just out. Jumping a bit further.
I was just saying,
go ahead.
A lot less zone contact last year. Like he made, his zone contact for his career is almost 90%. It's almost exactly 90%. It was 83.3% last year.
His swinging strike rate did soar up to 18%. He doesn't have good plate skills. I believe in the power. I believe that he's a workhorse. I like Sal Perez as a player. I can't get him on my fantasy team at this price.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
Jumping way further down, Big Z, Mike Zanino, you're paying for the career year. And that career year still had a 216 average. You couldn't, like, he's nowhere near a level that I would pay. He needs to be Mike Zanino over the last month going about 249. He would need to be at least 100 picks cheaper for me to even start considering him. Like I can't do it. He's got pop, but this is the first time he jumped up to 30 homers.
This seems personal.
I mean, it is. I can't stand him. He's terrible. No, he did lose me a batting average bet back in 2017 when I conned my friend Dusty into betting his money on Mike Zanino's batting average, which was like the dumbest thing ever. I was like, oh, you just want to light money on fire. And then Mike Zanino hit 251. I don't think you can add two of his other years up together to get 251. And this slug comes out and does that. So I've had beef with him ever since 2017. You're right. That said, jokes aside, I can be honest about him and say, I don't think you're getting another 30 homers. So you're going to get that dead weight batting average with 20 something homers at pick 249. No shot. No shot. He'd have to be 100 picks cheaper for me to start considering him. I'm not even kidding though.
I think he,
like Danny Jansen goes there, by the way, and I think Danny Jansen can do the same thing.
I don't think Danny Jansen can do quite what
he could do what Zanino does this year. Not saying he's going to do Zanino's last year. I mean, he can do whatever Zanino's going to do this year. Zanino's just not a good hitter, man. Like it's very simple. He's got power, but unless he's running hot on homers, what are you getting? He had a 30% homer to fly ball ratio. You truly couldn't pay me to draft Mike Zanino.
Mike Zanino led baseball in a StatCast metric.
Barrel rate?
Yeah, barrel per batted ball event, barrel per plate appearance percentage.
And he's not going to do that again. Like that, that's the needle that you have to thread with a 35% strikeout rate. You got to get a 30% homer to fly ball rate. No shot. No shot. You're getting a low 200s average and mid 20s homers this year. Have fun. No shot.
That's probably true.
He's the 16th catcher going right now.
I think that's fine. Like, I mean, I haven't ended up with him anywhere, but he's not off my board because of it. I mean, he's got a ton of power, and the Rays really like his defense, so he's going to play a fair amount.
The more he plays, the worse, rather, because that batting average will hurt more. So I would almost rather
almost every catcher's batting average at that point, or their power, or is going to hurt at some point. I mean, this is why people go for the the Sal Perez's and the JT Realmutos and the Will Smiths of the world, is because every catcher hurts after a certain point. I mean,
after a certain point, but not at 16. He's going 16.
Something you said, like, Wilson Contreras, right? He had like $23 of projected value, and
Well, no, 19
and then
23 of it's the position value.
Yeah, 20. So I mean, every catcher is like shitty. Like,
he's much worse. Like,
I grant this. This is
the
not
thing of it is
that's
what I'm saying though. Like, you don't want that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you don't want him, like, it's not a big deal. It's you're a catcher too. You just go a different direction. My guy, I think, is going to be a little bit more hotly debated.
Yeah, because I fully disagree with you.
And it's Christian Vasquez.
Why out on him?
Have you seen his StatCast profile?
It was a rough season, plain and simple. Like, all that's going to tell me is what the 77 WRC plus already tells me, though. I'm not betting on 2021. I'm betting on a rebound. Obviously, 4% homer to fly ball rate, 77 WRC plus. Like, again, that's just going to be retelling me what I already see in this. Go ahead, but like, I'm not betting on him to do that again, though. I'm looking at the guy he was in 19 and 20.
But why when you look at the underlying metrics,
why would I only think 21 is who somebody is just because it's bad? Any more than I would think it just because it's good.
I mean, it's really bad.
Okay, it was a shit season. It was a terrible season. Yep.
The only thing that saved him were 8 stolen bases, which
this is how you would have talked about Zanino coming into last year, right? Like 83, 46, 67. Those are his WRC pluses, and then he goes out and puts up a 134. And I'm not saying that they're the same, but I'm saying you can't just take him for what he is this year and say that's who he is now.
No, because you would have looked at Zanino and you would have gone under the hood and go, oh, look, even in spite of the struggles, he had an 18% barrel percentage in 2020.
No, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said he's still terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you would. I wouldn't. I would have said, hey, even the underlying stuff tells me that, hey, maybe he's not as terrible as the line says.
But he is.
What Vasquez's metrics are telling me is there is no more pop in that bat. Like, he is probably not a double-digit homer guy. And if we take away some of those stolen bases, because he's like 19th percentile in sprint speed.
Who cares? Stop using sprint speed for steals, guys. Stop. It's not a good metric for steal. Like, you having it can be good. It is not a prerequisite to stealing bases, though.
Absolutely understand. But a catcher who is older, that isn't fast. Yes, he made some, he's a smart base runner. He takes advantage. He understands like how pitchers and catchers work in terms of stealing bases, but I'm not going to bank on 8 stolen bases again from him. I'm gonna play that a lot more conservatively and say maybe he gets 4, and then he's like 8 homer, 4 stolen base guy at the catcher. But I don't want that.
Why? With a 250 something average, he had 258 last year. He was 12 with a 77 WRC plus. He was the 12th best catcher last year.
Oh, that's so gross.
So I mean, I'm fine with that. Like, if he is 8 and 5, like I would rather something better. I think he can on the high end be more of like 12 and 7 or something.
Yeah, almost every single one of his StatCast metrics.
That's fine. It was a bad year.
In a single digit. We're not talking about a bad year. We're talking about single digit percentile.
What does it matter how bad it is? It's bad. It's bad. Bad is bad. It was a 77 WRC plus. And in spite of that, because of how garbage catcher is, he was still up there. So, I mean, you look at Steamer. Let's look at Steamer because they have 8 and 5, which is kind of what you said. 8 and 5 for Vasquez puts him. They got him 22, 8 and 5 with a 253 average. So that's a 22nd catcher. They have much lower runs and ribbies. That's why I was like, wow, because the Bat X has 10 and 5, and he checks out much higher. So I think it's a runs ribbies thing. He's 16th on their board. Where's he going overall? Christian Vasquez is the 11th catcher at pick 210. Yeah, I'm not removing him off the board. If I can get some steals at catcher, I would take last year. 6'8" with a 258.
If he's going around catcher 20 in a draft, then I guess he's probably not technically off my board, but he's just never there. Like I am never gonna get him at this price.
I mean, I get him around Zanino's price. Like he has a range of 151 to 296, excuse me, for his 210 ADP for Vasquez. And so around Zanino, around pick 250, I'll take Vasquez all day. Because I like some cheap speed at catcher. Even if it is 5 steals. With a batting average too. Like, keep getting some base hits for me with a couple steals. And if the power doesn't return, that's okay. That's okay. Like, I grant that it's bad. He's not some primary target of mine, but I do think Vasquez is being a little bit slept on. So, because I was with you, I had him like 24th in my first ranking, and he moved way up in the second one that's available on Patreon, and will soon be going up on the website on Fangraphs. So I'm more in on Vasquez than you. I understand what you're saying about the stat. It was bad. It was a very, very bad season. But like, where was the StatCast in 19 or I guess in 20, since it was more recent, but it's only 47 games. But like, guys go up and down, especially catchers range of outcomes are even bigger than the normal distribution. So for me, like, I'm just not going to lose my mind over the bad StatCast, because I feel like the 77 WRC plus already told me that he had bad StatCast.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was worse in, compare like 2019 or 2020 to 2021. But I mean, he was always a bad barrel catcher.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being too harsh. I'm still never going to draft him. I'm being a little too harsh, but I'm still never going to draft him. This is never
Fair enough. I like me some Christian Vasquez. I can definitely get there. Let's move over to first. We spent a lot of time on catcher, so we might have to pick up a pace. But mine's easy because it's not even like a super hate on this guy. But I'm not taking Jose Abreu at his price. Like, I respect what he does. He's good. I don't have negative.
It's just a price thing.
It's just a price thing and other players. That's it. It's not negative on Abreu as a player.
Both of mine are Matt Olson and Vlad Guerrero Jr. I feel the same way. I'm just not going to, at their price,
because we like other guys.
I want speed or pitching, like,
especially those two, because those are premiums. That's Vlad's obviously a top 8 pick, and Matt Olson is a top 3 round guy, and you don't want to get just that power only guy. Abreu jumps down; he's at 78. But I just keep looking at Jared Walsh, CJ Cron, Josh Bell, and even a Reese Hoskins, and maybe even a Joey Votto, and thinking that I'm not getting anything that different. And I grant that Abreu is a stalwart.
Yeah, I think you're paying for the safety, which is fine,
and a great lineup too. Yeah, like I don't hate him. So
I did a little bit more digging on Walsh. I'm a little worried.
Because of the second half?
Because of his work against lefties.
Yeah. It was a disaster. Second half was awful too. Like when he came back from that injury.
Because I had him pretty high, and I've dropped him recently. I'm not out. I was still drafted.
I mean, he was still, he was inches away from 3,100 with a 277, despite all that.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why, like, I understand the makeup of it.
Pujols is now gone, so like he's not really at a platoon risk. I don't know that they have anybody on that roster that they can platoon him with.
He certainly won't start every day against lefties, but he also had a 177 BABIP. Now, to counter that, he had a 416 against righties, so that's going to come down. But the lefty one should go up. Now, the lefty one won't go up enough to counterbalance where the 416 is going to come down against righties. I fully grant that. So don't put him down for a 277. That's okay. Put him down for a 260. But I still think the 3,100, which I know he didn't reach, it's 29.98 for Jared Walsh, but I'm shorthanding it. I think I'm still getting that. If I go 260, 28.90, what do you think about that from Walsh?
260, 28.90. I think that's attainable. I really do. Like, I'm just
that's where I'm living mentally with him.
I mean, he murders righties. So
yeah.
Like, I do think that could carry him. I just worry a little bit about how bad he is against lefties.
That's fair. It was awful, but BABIP has even though we know lefties struggle against lefties, it's the hardest set lefty
Mhm.
lefty righty righty, and then the opposite handed. It's the hardest one to do because they don't see a lot of lefties coming up. It's a big challenge at the major league level. In spite of that, though, you still got to give some credit on a 177 BABIP and say that's natural regression. Got to bring that up some,
Mhm.
right? He's a career 214, which is again still not great. So I'm not here to suggest that he's good against lefties or going to be, but I do think that Walsh can get back to like a low 200s average while still hitting some homers because he still hit 10 homers against them last year. So there was
He's
still
got
some
power.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he almost had a 200 ISO against lefties despite the brutal batting average. So that's why I'm like, maybe it's not a complete lost cause against lefties for Jared Walsh. Now, I also grant that second half wasn't particularly good. I believe he had an injury, and then when he came back from said injury, he closed strong though. September was pretty good. He had a lull there. July was a disaster into August for Jared Walsh, but he closed with a bang, 330 with 4 homers and 19 ribs in September. So you don't have him on your off list though, right? You're just saying that you have altered.
No, I just dropped him.
Okay.
I dropped him behind like CJ Cron and Reese
That's okay. I'm
Hoskins
on the
and
Crone train.
yeah. I think I dropped him behind. Oh, I have it right. I think I dropped him behind Joey Votto. So I dropped him from 7 to 13.
7 to 13. Okay.
So a pretty big drop.
Yeah, that's substantial. I still got him at 9.
He kind of moves from the top of that tier to the bottom. Okay. So he's still in the same tier. But he drops all the way to the bottom as opposed to leading off kind of that next tier of catchers after first baseman after Abreu.
Okay.
Back to Abreu. I'm not out on Abreu. I mean, he's just such a steady Eddie guy.
He really is.
And I really do like getting guys like that.
Yeah, it's a firm base to just set and forget.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about 3,100. That's my man right there, 3,100 with Abreu. But he's going to be 35, and I just feel like I can damn near replicate him with a lot of guys. Crone, Bell, a healthy Hoskins. Like I said, maybe even Votto. Votto certainly gets there in projections. Like projections think that Votto can kind of match him. And so again, it's not a hate on Abreu. It's more of a I'll go get that about 30 picks later, or damn near.
I think that's fair. I think the kind of question becomes, what do you think the batting average looks like for Abreu next year?
Yeah,
because he's been a guy who kind of bounces around in terms of batting average, but 265 is pretty low for a guy with his ability to make contact. He had a pretty close to career low BABIP last year. I think he's like more of a 280 hitter, and that's where you start to go, okay, I'm getting those 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 280.
That would change things for sure.
All the projection system have him for 258 to 2, and batting average fluctuates, right? And sometimes there's not much rhyme or reason. So he easily could, but I think there's also, he's got multiple 300s, batting average seasons, including in 2020. So not one that's not that far removed. So I'm not going to get him a lot, but he's definitely. It's not a season, but when it's backed up in other seasons, he also did it in 2014. He did it in 2017. He hit 290.
Hit some 290s. He hit 284 in 2019. I get it. Yeah. Again, Abreu, you want runs, you want power establishment.
The hard part is the lack of speed.
And I was going to say that too. Not only that can hurt the batting average too. And that as he gets older is going to start eating some extra bases and also some extra base hits. Some doubles become singles type deal. So, you'll see some singles stolen because they can play him deeper, Pujols style. And then some of his extra base power will come back because he crushes it into the gap. But then they get there and he's not even around first yet. But again, I'm not here to cut down Abreu. It's not that I dislike him. There are scenarios where I would take him if he falls past the 78 ADP that he has. He does range as low as 106, which would put him more around LeMahieu and Mountcastle. And I would triple digit pick. I would start to get back in on Braves. So, I shouldn't have put him on here because I said off the board, but I just don't really see him falling down there. I know he has a 106 max, not in any of the rooms I'm in, not even close. He doesn't even get to his ADP in the rooms I'm in. So there's a lot of Abreu fans, which I respect, but I'd rather take Alonso. I think Alonso is Abreu-ish earlier with more pop, trading a little bit of that batting average, or Crone, Walsh, Bell, Hoskins, those four. I think I can replicate him a little bit.
Yeah, and usually that's what I'm doing too. So I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily.
But we do need to give him his props. He's awesome, and I get that. And so you had Vlad Jr. and Matt Olson again. Price,
it's all Price.
You're not giving up that speed. You said speed and pitching is why you can't, because you want speed in the first round when Vlad goes, and then pitching in the third round when Olson goes. Is that what you're saying?
Or vice versa. I mean,
that's true.
Like even if I just look at starting with Vlad Guerrero Jr., I start looking at the guys going behind him in ADP. I'll take Corbin Burns over him. I'll take Bryce Harper. I'll take Acuna. I don't really want to take Ohtani because I don't love the idea of starting my team off with a DH, but I still would take him over Vlad Guerrero because he steals bases, right?
Yeah.
I'd definitely take Kyle Tucker, Luis Robert, Mookie Betts. Now we're already into the second round.
Yeah.
I take Albies. We had that discussion recently, which I had multiple people jump into my DMs and go, "Oh, why'd you have to talk about him as a first rounder? You're ruining it for me."
Hey, you put it out there now it's happening. It's a thing.
Yeah. So, there's just so many guys I would take.
I min picked him. I didn't realize that.
Oh, did you? You're the 10 min pick.
Yeah, I'm in picked Albies.
I think that's fair, actually.
I'm fine with it. I really am 30-20. I think the average can come up even if the power comes down. He's so young. Yeah, I love Albies. I'm totally there on that. Let's go over to Albies' position here. Transition over to second base. Could use this guy at short. This one's a little rote. A lot of people are like this. It's a pro or con. There's a few people that are in between on Jazz Chisholm. You either love him or you're not really in. And I'm on the not really in.
Why? Because I like Jazz Chisholm.
Love the player. Rooting for him. It's the volatility of it all. I understand he went 18-23 last year, and he didn't even really get he had a good run, but this wasn't even his best season, and he damn near went 2020. I get that, but he's got a platoon issue where he can't hit lefties that well, and a lot of his success was just built on April, completely. And because if you lop that April off, those numbers get a lot worse. He had a 969 OPS in April with a 311 batting average, 4 homers, 9 steals. He got hurt, so he misses half of May. And listen, if you're wiping away some of the concern of what I'm going to give you with these May on numbers from the injury and saying, well, a healthy Jazz is going to be fine, I can understand that. But from May 16th on, when he returned from injury, he went 14-14 with a 236 average, and that's a full season 22-22 with 71 ribbies and 92 runs, which, how would you feel about that if he went 236, 22-22, 71, 92?
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, it's not
I mean, you'll definitely have to figure
terrible.
You have to figure out how to make up that batting average, but that's still a 2020 season.
I know.
I think that's fine where he's gone. Now he's not a main target for me, but I've been in a draft where he fell to me in the 6th round, and I went.
It's a bit rich for me, and the projections pretty much. The projections are starting with him at that. They're basically giving him that from May on season, because all the projections are 2020, but they're with averages that range from 228 to 241 for Jazz because of his swing and miss. And I just feel like we could see another developmental year where it's maybe an incremental step forward and then he explodes the following year. I understand wanting to buy a talent like this, right? And bet on the come and say, hey, he tweaks a couple things and he's off to the races and boom, 30-30. I get it, but I have not found myself taking him at all to the point where he's basically off my board because I don't ever get there. I'll take Polanco, Brandon Lau, Ketel Marte, Jonathan India. Well, maybe not India. I don't know. India, if I got my speed kind of locked. Because that's the thing. If Jazz is around, there's a scenario. He's not 1,000,000% off the board, but for the most part, where I have him, I don't ever get him. So I think I'm out on Jazz Chisholm. I got him 14th at second base, and he's going as the 9th guy off the board there.
Yeah, I will definitely end up. I mean, I've already gotten Chisholm on a team.
Okay.
At least one, maybe two. I'm not like particularly high on him though either. So like I'm not. I've got him 11th at second base. So it's not like he's a major draft target for me. I see that upside, and that is tantalizing. I think the main concern for me isn't so much the underlying metrics; it's the health.
Well, that's a big concern too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the reason why he isn't. If he had played a full season last year and hadn't really been injured, or only maybe had one minor injury or something like that, I'd probably be taking him I'd probably be taking him like right behind Javier Baez,
yeah.
Brandon Lau.
That's where he'd be going.
Yeah,
that's what you'd have to be paying.
So I'm fine with the price as it is. I'd prefer to get him when he's a little bit later. Especially the speed. Like, it's so hard to find that many stolen bases, 20 plus stolen bases later in the draft. So I'm and then you have the upside of him just staying healthy and going bonkers for a full season.
I don't think he fixed the strikeout rate though. I don't think he just like fixes it on a dime. I mean, 13% swing strike rate isn't crazy, but I don't know. I think he's just going to be a batting average risk, but the power speed has value for Jazz. I can't get there right now with it. I take other risks, so it's not like I'm risk averse here. I take guys like Mondesi and Buxton. So I'm not going to sit here and like chastise anybody who takes Jazz. Like if that's your guy and that's the kind of risk you want to take, I get it. There are, he's one of the most exciting players in the game. Where I'm looking, I don't see myself getting him.
He walked at a double-digit rate in the minors in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he, now that he's more established, he becomes a little bit more patient. Who knows? But
remember, he was also on our list of potential fades via the bad X. So that they're a little tepid on him too, even though the projection was still a 2020.
Yeah, like
Jazz.
I understand batting average carries a lot of weight, as it should. Well, the Bat X2 has him for like 59 RBIs.
I'm so curious about that double-digit walk rate, by the way, because who was walking him? He was hitting 204, striking out 34% of the time. I don't understand why anybody was walking Jazz in 2019. It's very bizarre. But anyway, so that's where I'm at right now. I just don't see myself getting there with Jazz. I think James Anderson's big on him, which definitely makes me question myself because James Anderson's really smart, but I can't just turn on your dime.
Number 2 overall, like TGFBI, like historically, James Anderson.
It's great. It's a great player.
Really good player. Yeah.
But on this one, we disagree.
I'm with James. I mean, I'm not actually with James. I am letting James take the lead, and I will take whatever's left over. I had a really hard time with this position. Second base is not easy.
It's hard to really get rid of guys, right? Because it's such a bad position that you got to keep everyone on board. Is pretty much what I think you're thinking, right?
And spoiler alert, third place is exactly the same way.
Yeah.
I went with Max Muncy. Injuries, I just do not trust. And this is like a true example of he is completely off my board.
Yeah, you haven't even ranked him.
Yeah, no, I've got him ranked somewhere, but it's super, super low. And but I've been in drafts where he's dropped outside the top 300 and still not picked up. I'm just not. He's just not going to end up on any of my teams, which is, for those who know me, I've loved Max Muncy. Prior to the injury, when my first set of ranks were made, I had him like 4th at second base.
Yeah.
Like,
I love Muncy too. I'm nervous about the health too, but I still got him. I got him top 20 at first and second.
I do not.
I
I have, let's see, Muncy. I have him at 36, right behind the other guy that I put on for second base, which is Jeff McNeil.
I got Jeff McNeil at 40. I'm out on him too.
So both those guys, neither are going to end up on any of my teams this year. I want to be wrong on Muncy because I like Muncy a lot. I hope he's healthy.
If he's healthy, you will be, but we don't. There's no reason for you to feel like you're completely wrong by being nervous about him right now.
So, especially with having no idea where he's at in terms of his health, he's just, until I see him play and at least play for a little while, I'm not going to feel comfortable drafting him, which means, especially with this year and probably getting a shortened spring training, if any spring training at all.
Well, doesn't anything that delays the season, doesn't that help somebody like Muncy?
I don't know if it helps a guy like Muncy.
If he misses, if the season, if they miss games, then won't he play a bigger percentage of the games they do play?
Not if he needs surgery.
Well, yeah, I guess he could be like out.
Yeah, and my big fear is that he's going to be out, that he needs surgery. That this isn't a rest and rehabilitation thing, that eventually he's going to need surgery, and that we're going to find out really early into the season or into whatever spring training we get that he needs surgery. So until I know, and like I've seen him on the field, back-to-back days, and and he's fine and hitting bombs, and until I see that, and even when I see that, I'm probably gonna have a hard time taking him.
Wait, even if he's healthy, you're not taking him?
I just feel like it's like that. Like that's such a. I mean, it's a UCL injury. It's how many pitchers do we do? With partially torn UCLs, do we just go? I'm not. And I know it's different for a hitter. Obviously, it's different for a hitter, but I'm afraid it's gonna pop at some point, and then I get nothing. So
okay.
I'm just not gonna draft him.
All right. And then
Jeff McNeil sucks. Like that's my analysis. Like
sorry, Alex.
Like he's going. Why'd you say sorry, Alex?
Alex Chamberlain loves him.
Chamberlain's a McNeil guy. I mentioned this. It might have been on the pod with you. I was like, I can always get just Jeff McNeil later. And then you were like, no, Jeff McNeil's actually still going like around pick 300. And I'm like, what? It was when we were talking about Dom Smith and JD Davis. And both of them are going after McNeil. And I don't get that. Like,
well, I think he plays more positions ostensibly. I mean, he doesn't play them well, but no, I'm not in on Jeff McNeil either. Like he was a rabbit ball guy, like 100%. It just seems so clear that that's where that power spike came from. We haven't seen really any power since. Didn't he hit 4 homers in a row in 2020 after having 0?
Oh, and people were going crazy. Like, it's coming. The Jeff McNeil season.
He hit 7 last year in 426 plate appearances. He doesn't run. He hit 251 last year. I think he's better than a 251. That's kind of the downside. But I'm with you. I'm not taking Jeff McNeil either. We good?
Yeah, let's talk shortstop because my fades are pretty easy.
Mine's easy too. He was in the article too. It was Wander Franco. Like, great player. Excellent. I really think that he's going to still be a positive major league player off rip. He was, last year, his first full season. I think he will be too. I'm not paying that premium at fantasy because here's the thing. Even if he pops off, what does popping off look like for Wander Franco this year in terms of like its fantasy relevance? I don't believe in him as a speed component.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's like I think he's like a low double-digit guy if he even gets there. He was a dreadful runner in the minors as far as attempts and success. His best run at any stop was 14 for 23 at A ball in 2019 in 62 games. And then he was advanced to high A there and went 4 for 9. So like, what are we getting? Like, we're getting a big batting average and a lot of runs, and that's good. And those are two underrated categories. But I think the output on the power and speed for somebody being drafted that high, Wander Franco at pick 55 is just not high enough. And I understand that he will out average Javier Baez, but Javier Baez will be a better fantasy player, I think, this year because of what he'll give you in the power and speed categories.
We were just talking about this with somebody on this episode. I'm way too tired. We're talking about Abreu. Batting average is fluky.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, he could hit 315. He could hit 320. I honestly believe that. Like, even at his age. I also think that the variance in batting average, the amount he puts the ball in the ground, the lack of real power he has at the moment, means like I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 260.
I just think it's the Vlad season, like before Vlad blew up. I just think that's where we're at with, but so prior to last year, I think next year is going to be what Vlad did in 2021 for Wander Franco. Sorry, that's confusing. I said it stupidly, but like
you did, because I'm still confused.
We're a year away. Bottom line, we're a year away. I think this year is going to be fine, but I think next year is when Wander's really going to pop off. And
I don't mind paying for the comp, but we're paying way too much.
No, I agree.
I mean,
that's my problem.
If I were to run projections on him, it would probably be 15 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 280 batting average. That is not special enough, and probably like 90 runs scored, and maybe 60 RBIs or something like that.
I think the RBIs and the average is where you come way lower than the projection systems.
Yeah. But even if I say like I think there's a chance he could hit 300, 15 and 5 in power and stolen bases is not a top 50 pick. And
by the way, I go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I just don't see that much upward mobility in terms of the power and stolen bases. Like,
not immediately. I do down the line. Like, I think Wander Franco
I do too.
could be a transcendent player. I just think we're a year early and we're already paying for it because it could happen. And I get that. I just can't get there with that price on him.
Absolutely.
Like, I get, because this could blow up in my face and I wouldn't even fight back. I'd be like, okay, he was ready and good for you. You got it. But you need it. That's the thing, is you need him to be ready for this price to be fair. You don't have any wiggle room. Because if he's not ready to pop off, then you overpaid, right? Like, how many outcomes are there where 55 is not an overpay for Wander Franco? Not that many.
And that's the problem, because I don't see the path to it not being an overpay.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, we are in Simpatico. We are saying the same thing differently.
Do people really think that he has like 30 homer ceiling?
I don't know, like, because I don't know what's driving it.
Or 20. Like, I don't the batting average is great, but you can get 300 hitters later on in the draft. Like, you can get Michael Brantley and you can get Brian Reynolds, and
you can't name that many though, in fairness. But I hear you. Like, you can get some decent like, you can get Wander's profile, what we expect him to do later. They're betting on more, but I'm wondering, like, where are they getting that from? You know what I think is interesting too is, even though to a person, I think across the industry, we all say not to do this, but then we do it when it benefits us. The extrapolation game. Notice nobody's doing that with Wander Franco's 70 games, because it sucks shit, because he had 7 homers and 2 steals. And you don't have anybody being like, oh, why don't you just double it and sprinkle some on? Because, 14.
I'm actually.
I mean, that's your projection.
I literally, like, even without thinking of that.
Yeah.
That is the projection I gave.
Exactly. And obviously that's not exactly just who he is, but you can take what he did in the minors as well. In the 40 games, he had 7 homers and 5 more steals, but he was 5 for 9 on the bases. Like, everything I look at with him, with Wander Franco, I just don't know how he gets to be the 50th best player and deliver enough fantasy value. Like, I guess there's a runs count and a batting average where he would still check out as worth his price. But I think what you need there, this would be a interesting split here versus dollar value and what you need with that pick in terms of stats to make sure you're competitive to win your league or to win an overall. Because Wander Franco could maybe deliver a dollar value that is fair enough for pick 55 because his batting average is 310 and his runs scored are 90. But if he hits 14 homers or 15, like you said, and 8 steals or something, did I get enough? Did I get enough there to make myself competitive for that overall, or for even just the league, if that's all I get, 15 and 8, even if I got the right dollar value for pick 55. And I think that's a disconnect that kind of goes back to what we talked about with the catcher thing. Dollar value wise, if Sal Perez delivers a 2016 iteration, according to a lot of calculations, you got enough value to make him worth pick, 36. But did you get enough production to win your league? And that's the kind of split here that I'm seeing with Wander Franco as well. So I hope that made sense. A little bit of a diatribe there, but I just can't get there. I think I'll be in on him next year, but this year it's a no-go for me.
I completely agree. On the same token, I'm going to fade the guys that I've apparently always faded. That's Carlos Correa and Corey Seager.
Where's Correa going first?
Correa is going like 1-0.
No, sorry. That was unclear on me. Yeah. ADPs are good to give too, but I was going to ask you, where are you putting him? What team?
Oh, I think Houston.
I think he goes back to Houston too.
I think he goes back to Houston, and I think that'd be a fantastic fit for him.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have like a crap ton of money on the books, anyways. I think they can easily bring him back. He's makes a lot of sense for him to go to Houston. Would not be surprised if he ended up with the Yankees or one of those kind of teams either.
If he goes to Philly, would that encourage you? Would that intrigue you?
No, because it doesn't matter where he goes.
Okay, so you're just out regardless.
It's a combination of injury history
and
lack of speed.
Okay.
Like he's
so then just loop in your other guy because he has the exact same issue.
Exactly. It's injury history and lack of speed. I don't care that he's in Texas. I think when he is healthy, he's going to be a very productive player. In spite of that park and in spite of that lineup. Like I don't think that that's going to be an issue for either of these guys. But there are too many shortstops that play every game and that give you a speed component with it, and I want that. I'd rather get the speed from my hated adversary of Dansby Swanson or from Willie Adames or guys like that.
I mean those guys are more in like the 10 range. Adames especially. I think Swanson had like 9.
Adames like 5. Like give me some. Just give me some. But
you're getting some and you're getting them cheaper. They're both going rounds cheaper. So, the 9 that we saw from Dansby last year, he does have a couple 10s on his ledger.
Yeah, I mean, particularly don't trust Dansby Swanson's health either because he's a guy that's been nicked up and missed time.
Yeah.
Not as much time, but
he still gets, 551, 533, 545, 2020, and then 653 last year. Fair. But I like him a lot too. I like Dansby Swanson a lot. I love Willie Adames. I'm definitely on that train. I agree with I'm not tripping too hard on Seager in Texas, and then Correa undecided, but I've got them 11, 12. I've got Franco 13. So that's where I'm at on those 3. So I'm not going to fight you. I've done the thing with Seager and
I was right.
No, you weren't.
I was right. Just say it. I was right.
You weren't though.
I was.
No. Oh
I was.
God,
I was
dude.
Right.
It's getting so nauseating with you sometimes because like you were wrong at the time. I fully prove that. Anybody can listen to it. And now retroactively, because he played 95 games, you're like, see, I told you the future. I'm like, okay, sure you did.
I told you what I thought.
He had,
and then he didn't.
The whole point was he had one just really bad season. It was 2018. Like you were legitimately wrong on it. You were acting like he was just this big nagging injury guy. He had 157, 145, 26, and 134 games. So it's 4 seasons, 1 with like legit missed time. And you hung on that as though that was like the reason to not draft him. He was
I was
great.
right.
No,
And
you were. Oh my God, you moron!
what did he do?
You absolute moron. He hit 15 homers, 307. This was before 2020. You know that, right? This was before 2020 that we had this discussion. He played 52 of 60 games and he was amazing.
2020 doesn't
me on
count.
this.
Remember, I thought.
No, it was before 2020 because we do this every year. So the year that I outlined when you were like, he's this big injury risk, it was only 2018 that you were harped on with Corey Seager. And he went out. And again, if you're going to count it, I'm going to move the goalposts here and count it as a season. He played 52 of 60 games because it's a season. But no,
that doesn't count.
He stayed healthy for that period. I'm not taking a win. I've never taken a win on 2020 because it was 2020.
Yeah.
But then, yes, he got hurt in 2021. But the argument that you made pre-2020 did not hold water because he'd only really missed the one season. 2018 was the big issue with him. But he's going to go to Texas. You know, he's going to do his thing. He's going to hit 300-ish, decent homers. It depends how much he plays. So I understand you not wanting him with the depth of shortstop for Seager. And Correa isn't terribly different. It's interesting that I think Seager wears a lot of the injury brunt in the community more so than Correa.
Does he? He does, I think.
I think so. I think
he
so.
Shouldn't.
He shouldn't. Although Correa is also coming off a healthy season, 640 plate appearances. So recency bias can help him jump up because Seager only played 95 games this past year. So I'm not going to crush anybody that doesn't want to draft those guys because there's enough depth that you can do it. What about the guys smushed right in between them right now over the last month of ADP? Seager at 79, Correa at 100, and then this guy, Bobby Witt Jr. at 93. You paying for that?
Probably not. And I almost put him on the list.
Okay. Let's talk about him a little bit because I'm open to it. He's certainly not off the list. So I couldn't put him on the list. You know, I couldn't put him on this list. But what do you think?
If he signs some sort of deal or we get word that he's going to be up on opening day, I could see myself paying the price. The problem is the price will go through the fucking roof.
Oh, for sure. Well, what's wrong with the 2 missed weeks though? Because how much longer can they really keep him down? Though he was so dominant at AAA. At some point, it'll become malpractice.
But they do what they want. Like
I know, but like they're kind of interesting though too. You know,
a team that
I was a year early on them,
so I would not expect them to. Like, I think they're a team that could easily just say, "You're coming up day one." Like, we don't care about the service time because they have.
I could just see them getting that deal done, like you said.
Or yeah, I mean, I think they should get that
totally
deal done.
See that.
Yeah, maybe it's a matter of just getting burnt by Kelnick last year.
Sure, and don't let that affect you though, because you know we had a decent process there. I don't think we crazy overpaid, and he just wasn't quite ready. He did start to show some signs late, but you know, Kelnick was a miss. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it, but we can't let that influence our other prospects because every prospect's different. Now, Jazz at 78 versus Witt at 93. How do you come out between those two there? I know Jazz has the major league experience. Is that's enough to give you more confidence in him?
I know he's going to be up day one.
Yeah, he's locked. He's locked and loaded. Yep, that's true.
I think that Miami is a better team than
I don't know about
Kansas City.
I think Kansas City's on the come up still.
Yeah, I don't know that I buy that yet. I think Kansas City may
have a better lineup.
I think they may leapfrog them at some point.
They have a better lineup for sure. Their pitching isn't as good. That's fair, but
yeah, they do have a better lineup.
They could be similar teams.
I'm telling you, you're actually talking me into it right now a little bit.
I think that's part of why. Sorry, one last thing. That's part of why I'm out on Jazz too. I'm willing to just take the 20 pick discount and take Witt, or 15, like the 1 round discount, take Witt instead. Not the exact same risk, but I think I would rather just do that instead if I'm going to take the risky junior at shortstop between those two.
I'm updating my ranks right now.
Let's go.
As we're talking, and I've moved a bunch of guys in like around here, so I've got to let me.
My rankings on the site do not reflect this yet, but if you are a Patreon subscriber, you know that I have Witt over Jazz Chisholm 16-17. I am on top of each other, but I had Witt very low in my initial ranking, way down at 29. I've moved him way up. I've come around on this quite a bit. And I'm realizing, the 2-level season that Witt had at AA and AAA, this is what a top, 2 prospect type guy does. And I mean, him or Julio Rodriguez, who's your number one, or somebody else, I guess, but who's your number one prospect in baseball? Fantasy prospect, sorry.
I think it's got to be Witt, I think, because of his proximity. Yeah. Like, I think Rodriguez is probably up this year, but I don't know when.
Yeah, I don't either. So that's the tough part. I agree with you.
But I think they're super, super close. I think that you can make the argument that Rodriguez should go ahead of him, because I do think the upside might be even a little bit higher than Witt's. But Witt's is, sky high too. So I moved Witt up to 13.
Okay.
Right behind Jazz Chisholm. So I've got it Wander Franco, Chisholm, Witt. God, I think I'm going to put Chisholm. No, I have a hard time kind of deciding between Franco and Chisholm, but to you guys, you're out on.
I know. You can have both. How about that?
All right, I'll take both. All
right. Let's go. Let's go to third base. Let's check out the hot corner. You talked about how this one's a weird one too, because of the shape of it. You're like not crazy out on anybody. The guy you're out on, we talked about a lot. So let's go to mine real quick. It's Austin Riley. This one hurts me a little bit too, and I always have to check myself from doing this. This is a guy, we've told the story a million times. Fell in love with him at the fall league. He had, quote unquote, the sound, which, is it really different? I don't know, but there just feels like certain guys that strike the ball create a different sound that just hits your ear differently, and
it absolutely does. It
makes you snap your neck up. I remember it with Eloy Jimenez we got to be on the diamond with Eno for practice, for batting practice of the Arizona Fall Stars game, and watching Eloy in the cage, same thing. It was like, holy crap, this is different. The story with Riley, if you don't know, for folks that don't know, was back in 2017, we're at the Fall League opening night. So we're having our conversations. We're pretty dialed in on the conversations. This dude comes up, starts smacking the ball, and heads just turn. Colette and I were talking to each other, facing each other, and we instantly snapped toward the ball. Next at bat, same thing. 2 at bats later, same thing. Who's this Austin Riley guy? Keep a note on him. Didn't even come up the next year because he was a young buck. He'd only had 48 games at AA. So we had to wait all of 18 and then a lot of 19 before he even came up. Then he comes up in 19, hits the ground running. First few weeks were off the charts. Then he was a disaster. Then 20 was a disaster. Then he breaks out last year. I think that my issue is that we're treating him as unquestioned, untouched. He's ready to go after the breakout season. And I think it's a high watermark that we're not regressing enough. And thus, I can't take Austin Riley when I'm looking at Nolan Arenado, Alex Bregman, even your guy, Chris Bryant, who you're off on, and even our longtime boy who we've trusted, Anthony Rendon. They have issues. Arenado's old. Bregman, Rendon coming off injury. Bryant has injury history and an unsettled place right now, but they're all markedly cheaper than Austin Riley. So I will take on their age. I will take on their health risk. I will take the discount. I'm scared of Austin Riley off the career year. He's off my board right now.
That's interesting because you have him ranked as your number 3 third baseman.
Not anymore. I don't. Those are old.
On the Patreon.
No, I know. They're old.
The Patreon should be live. The Patreon should be live.
This happened this morning. Yours aren't live, you idiot. Look at you. What's your last update? Yours aren't even
live.
No, you said yours aren't even live yet. No. This literally happened this morning. As I'm investigating third base, I'm like, why are we paying this for Austin Riley? So this is literally a day of development. So my last update at third base is 215. I'll put an update right now for 218, and you're going to see where he goes. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on this?
I think there's regression coming in batting average department for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think he's I totally trust his power.
Yeah, the power seems legit.
But if he regresses his batting average, he comes down with these guys then.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I have him ranked above Arenado and Bregman, but at his price, I probably won't end up with Riley a ton. He's not off my board though. I think he's probably gonna hit 270. and 30 home runs. I think
I don't know if he's going to hit 270.
Arenado, I think, is going to hit probably 260 and 30 home runs. So, I mean, I think the difference is 10 points of batting average. Now, do 10 points of batting average mean, 20 picks? I don't know that it does. So often
Arenado hit 255 last year. Okay.
So, or maybe it's 15 points of batting average. Maybe it's, maybe.
No. I think he can get back to 260.
I think 10. I think 10. Yeah, I think Arenado hits 260. So, or do I want to wait 40 picks for Bregman? Like, I think for me it's more
rebound.
For me, it's more of when I can get a very, very similar profile later. Give me a profile that's got speed, and so I will pass on Bregman for a speedier player or a closer or a starting pitcher, or pass on Riley. I think
pass on Riley for something like that, and then get him later,
and then grab Bregman or grab Arenado later.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, and that was just kind of a revelation that I had where I'm like, love the player. I will be rooting for him. I'm not trying to fence it or anything, so I can be like, oh, I said I liked him. No, I'm not taking Austin Riley. There's no equivocation about it. I think I used that word right. I'm not giving any conditionals here. I'm out.
I'm not out. I don't.
Yeah. I just didn't want it to be like, well, you tried to couch it by saying you still love him. I will grant that. You can be a fan of a guy and not want to draft him in fantasy, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that to protect myself in case he's a beast. If he's a beast, I tip my cap and say I was wrong. I'm not drafting him at his price. Projections got him at 266. Yeah, I think it comes down more like that. I think he's in the 255 to 270 range. And you said 270, so I'm not fully disagreeing with you.
Have him, yeah. Most of the projections only
Bad X.
Only Bad X has him below.
Aren't they the most accurate though? They have been in the past, at least. I know it gets judged every year.
Yeah, there have been years, but there are years ATC is the best. And I love Derek. I use Bad X probably more than.
I didn't realize that was such an outlier. By the way, I have the projections sheet up. I didn't go to Austin's page and see that 266 is the outlier. All the others are low 270s. But again, that even your 270, that's 33 points of batting average drop, and to me that means you cannot take him at pick 50 there.
The only reason
makes no sense.
The only reason he is not off my board is I honestly believe there are like 5 third basemen who do not have like any major red flags.
Ramirez, Devers, Machado,
Riley, and Arenado.
Okay.
Like those are the 5. That's it. I have Mondesi in those tiers of players because of his upside,
of his speed.
They're a huge red flag.
Yeah, he is a red flag.
I think Bregman probably belongs in the conversation with Riley and Arenado, but there's huge injury red flags, right? But every other guy has like real major red flags, and so for that reason, I'm not going to take Riley off my board because I prefer guys without red flags. And there are going to be instances where he does fall in a draft, and I may take the gamble.
Yeah, and listen, I'm being pretty strident here. I'm also looking at a max pick of 92, and I'm like, okay, that puts him back with the guys that I'm talking about. I don't know how often he gets down there for Riley. So, but for the most part, I just don't see where I'm going to end up with him because I don't know that he's going to be pick 92 very often. If he does, then there is a scenario where I guess he might not be 1 trillion% off my board.
The beautiful thing about
but I don't see getting him
is we can see like how many times he's going, not very often around 90.
Because you can click his name, right?
Yeah, on his player page, you have a little plot graph. Where he has been picked. He's mostly going in between like 70.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so it takes the exception to get Riley back on my board. That's why, for all intents and purposes, Austin Riley's off my board.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to outfield. And
mine was Chris Bryant.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Well, we have, but okay. Does he have the red flags that people believe? I kind of want to talk through this a little bit here. I know you've talked about him here, so let's dive in a little bit more. Chris Bryant not signed yet, so there's that uncertainty, but that's temporary uncertainty, right? He's going to get signed. We're not concerned about that. We can adjust it if it's a terrible place to play or whatever. What is your issue with him? Can he not do 25, 10, 265 again?
I'm really scared off by his second half or his work with the Giants last year.
Okay.
After he was traded, he had 7 home runs. He stole 6 bases.
Yeah.
7 home runs, 262.
Would you have even noticed it though if it wasn't a separate line because he got traded? He was still an above average bat. He put up a 113 OPS plus, and that time I'm on BREF right now, so that's why I'm citing OPS plus instead of WRC plus.
He was a 113 WRC plus.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I think he gets a bad rap. His one injury since 2018. It was a sprained ring finger on his left hand in 2020. I'm not really bugging out about that. I know he's had the shoulder issue that was prominent in 18, especially. But
he's had to have more than one injury because he only played 144 games.
One injury since. Hang on. Let me do the.
He only played
one
34
IL
games. He only played 34 games in 2020.
Then he was an IL. Well, how long did the ring finger take him out? I said the ring finger thing.
And only played 144 games last year. 147 games.
He
hasn't played 151 games since.
That's nicks and bruises, though. He did not miss no IL time last year. So that's just a little knick-knack time out. Yeah. I mean, that's what guys play now. 144, like 586. Like what is that? That's 10. That's 16 missed games. It's basically like a 2-week IL stint, like sprinkled out throughout the season. But for 2021 injuries for Bryant, a bicep for a day, a right hand for a day. Like it's all a sore right side for 3 days, a hamstring for a day that flared up again a couple other times, day here, day there, little wrist. So it was like little knickknacks, and those can be frustrating, especially if they're midweek. And I grant that. But if we bake that in, if we're starting at a point where he's going to get 580 plate appearances, and that's the starting point, and it's 25 and 10 again, why can't Chris Bryant do that? And that was the seventh best third baseman last year. Can't he just be who he is again? And nothing doesn't have to be super special. He can just be Chris Bryant again.
I guess he can. He's just something about it. Maybe
you're not alone in this, by the way. Yeah. That's why I think it's worth talking about, because you're definitely not alone. But there's a vibe about him, but he's got good plate skills. 23% strikeouts, not bad. 11% walk. He's still 30. He's on the right side of 30. He's actually exactly 30, but like, I don't know. And he does throw in some speed, and you've been harping on the fact that you want speed at different components. True. So he's going to throw in a little chip in. We'll call it 7 to be safe. Let's not go all the way to the 10. So if I give you 24 and 7 with a 260, it feels boring, and I get that because it's none of those are flashy, but they're all pretty darn solid.
Yeah.
He's 8th on the bat X at third base, in between Arenado and Bregman.
The problem is as much as there's a lot of people who feel kind of like me that like, I'm just not interested.
He's still a top 100 pick.
Well, what do you think his max pick is? Not his mint, his max pick.
How late does he go? Like, can he dip below it as low as like 140?
In the last month?
Maybe like 140?
119. There's a believer in every league.
I'm in every league believing.
That's fine. I just.
That is interesting.
It's weird, right?
I think it's the third base outfield too. Infield, outfield. You always stress how great the dual eligibility when it's infield, outfield is. It's an extra level of special.
If
so
he ends up in Colorado, like there was a rumor at one point,
I would love
we may be having a different conversation.
Yeah,
but for the moment, I definitely want to see where he lands.
That's fair.
I'm uneasy about his health, but the problem is I'm uneasy about the health of a lot of third basemen.
And that's what you were getting into earlier. Yeah. We talked about it. Bregman and Rendon, LeMahieu coming off of his season. Brian Hayes, who I love and I've promoted. We're not in the clear with him with his wrist and hand.
Sure. I mean, you and I both have Justin Turner as a top 10 third baseman. And he's got injury issues.
He's a walking injury issue. Despite, but when he plays, he's just so dang good that, and the position I got him there partly because the position is, not special.
This is why, honestly, I think and I haven't done this yet, but I think if I have the first overall pick again, I'm taking Jose Ramirez.
I have no problem with that because third base sorks, dude.
I mean, I love Trey Turner, and that's who I have been taking.
Yeah.
But I think because of the depth of third base or the lack of depth of third base, I'm taking Jose Ramirez first overall.
I think they are both completely viable. I will never shade anybody who takes Trey, but I will certainly not shade anybody who takes Jose because he doesn't do much worse, if at all, than Trey, and he's at that dastardly third base position.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the outfield here. So Miles Straw was also on that article that I wrote. You guys know how I feel about rabbits. I won't belabor that one. And we've talked about it, and you even pointed out, he's not just speed. There is batting average, and there is some runs. Grant that. It's a team build thing. I'm not interested. I don't want the rabbit. I'm like, this.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Right.
I have a problem with that because
you're giving away so much power, man. You need 26 homers per spot.
What if you don't have enough speed? Where are you going to get it later? What if you
I'm going to draft better than that. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to put myself in that position. That's the thing. I don't want to put myself in that position to where I might have to take him. Other people might be open to doing different things before Straw goes because they know they can fall back on Straw. I won't get myself in that situation. Don't go in the deep end of the pool if you can't swim. And I don't want to mess with that. Okay, so I'm going to stay in the middle. A tortured analogy there, but I'm saying, like, I'm not going to go into an area that I'm not comfortable with. And that area would be getting into the Miles Straw draft area with no prominent speed, or at least speed at every spot where I'm getting 10, 12, 14, 10 more. And then I have a collection if I don't have a big guy. But, I've been big on Badu. I know there's some negativity on him, but I think he can have a big spike. A guy that
even if Badu regresses, he's going to steal bases.
Yeah, I think so too, because at least has a strong side platoon. But it's the power I'm giving up that really bothers me with him, because I took your point well when you said about this. The batting average is not too bad from Straw, and the runs can be solid, especially if he's batting high. I grant that. So he's not just a one category guy.
He's not your traditional rabbit. I think when we talk about rabbits, we talk about awful. Yeah, Malik Smith or Billy Hamilton or even kind of later D Gordon when he didn't have any batting average, didn't have as much batting average.
Although Malik Smith hit 296 that one year when he stole 40.
Oh man, he just broke my heart.
I know you loved him, and you want to make me look so bad for crapping on him, but I won that one.
Yeah, see, when you were right, I will admit it. You were right.
That is rare. That you would actually admit that I was right on. I was right on Corey Seager too.
No, you were not. You were absolutely
pre-2020. I absolutely was, dude. Oh my god. He stayed healthy. That Cleveland. If you're gonna keep counting 2020 as a season, I'm gonna. Well, yeah. Then stop pretending it is. But
it is when I want it to be.
No, it's not. So with Straw, the thing of it is though. Okay, so you say he's not like those other guys. He's not, because he also only steals 30. And I say only purposely because Billy Hamilton, Malik Smith, they stole a lot more. So do you think the trade-off of not necessarily reaching the same heights as them stolen base-wise is worth getting the 271 average and the 86 runs, as opposed to 50-something steals, but a 250 average and like 71 runs or something? I don't know. I have to look at.
Say that again.
So Malik Smith, let's just take that great Malik Smith season.
Yes.
2018. He had 40 steals, 10 more than Straw last year. Actually, no, that's a bad comparison because he hit. Okay, here the following season, after Malik Smith had the hype because he had that good 2018, he stole 46, which led baseball, but he hit 227 with 6 homers and 70 runs. Do you prefer that, where you get the MLB leader in steals, but that god-awful batting average and a low runs count, or do you give up the 16 stolen bases? Because that's why he's a little bit different than the Rabbits, like you're saying. He only stole 30, but he hit 271, way better average, and 86 runs, 15 more than Malik Smith. Which combo do you like better, the Malik Smith that you used to like, or Straw, who lowers the SB ceiling, but gives you something else to hang on to?
I think it's Straw, but because the other part, the average part, is backed up by something.
Yeah.
And
So
I mean,
you believe, because Malik spiked to 296, but then he completely faded to 227. You don't think that Miles Straw is going to fade to 230 this year or some crap like that?
no, I don't. Like, I think
Okay.
he makes so much zone contact.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I mean, and I'm gonna look at just what he did in Cleveland, because he was traded on the 31st of July. Dun, 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 and he's leading off. Like, that's, so yeah. So he stole 13 bases with 2 home runs. So, 2 home runs are obviously a negative. In 268 plate appearances after coming led off pretty much every game except for, it looks like 2 or 3 games. He did not lead off. His plate discipline, a 92.3% zone contact, only swung outside of the zone 22% of the time.
That's sick.
A swinging strike rate of 4.7%.
He's in control of what's going on up there. And he does take walks. Miles Straw has an 11% walk rate. He walked in the minors. He's walked before in the majors. Here, my concern, though, goes back to the power, right? So you need about mid-20s homers per spot to really be up there, both in your league, but also for the overall. And if you don't play for an overall, then you do not have to worry about this part as much. The balance is not as important for you if you don't play in an overall. So this is a little bit NFBC-centric when we're talking about this discussion. But say you take Pete Alonso and you're like, that covers my Miles Straw. That's okay to say that, but then you're back to needing 24 homers, 26 homers at every spot beyond that. You've used all your surplus of Pete Alonso on one guy. Are you okay with that?
In certain circumstances, I don't think,
like I said, to needing at least 20, 25, 24 per.
I don't think you should be entering a draft going, I'm targeting Miles Straw.
See, that's where I disagree. I think you should plan for it if you're going to do it. I think it should be a well thought out plan to where you have some backup speed as well, because you should never just put all your speed in one basket. You with your Alberto Mondesi in our triple play league.
But I have a lot of speed.
Actually, you do.
Yeah,
I think you projected for 110, or I think you were up at 120, and he's 39 of it. So fair play. That was incorrect. But I think you should actually game plan it to where you know where you're going to get your secondary speed and where you're going to make up the power, as opposed to doing it on the fly, because then I think you're going to come out too light in power. I think people don't realize the impact that he has in the negativity of your power from Miles Straw. That's my biggest concern with him on a team build construction, as opposed to him specifically with what he does. I think you need to be ready to build him there. Like whenever I took Billy Hamilton, it was always somewhere where I was like, I am planning to do this. I remember one year I like paired Billy Hamilton and Chris
taking
Davis.
him in like the 4th round.
I mean,
that's where
between 4th and 6th.
Yeah, Billy Hamilton was going 3rd, 4th round. Like, I mean,
that doesn't mean that you don't need to prepare to take Straw. That doesn't change it. He was also getting 60-something steals, so he kind of was worth it a bit more. So you're going 8th, 9th round here with Straw, but in fairness, though, too, and maybe somebody was thinking this while we were doing the Malik Smith conversation, 30 is almost today's 40, though, right? Because they're not seeing many guys with that. So he has a chance to be very, very impactful with just 30 steals. But I just need to make sure that I'm fully planned for that. I can't do it on the fly, and that's just me personally. And I don't want to put myself in that position. That it scares me to death.
That's when I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it when I have said, like, I look at my team, I get to that 8th, 9th round spot, and I go, I do not have enough speed, because I've prioritized, starting pitching, or I've prioritized.
Have you taken him anywhere? Have you taken Miles Straw anywhere? What can you pull that team up? I'd like to see how you covered the power with that. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up just quickly Eddie Rosario. We said off the board, right? And so I don't want to fence it on too many of these where you're like, well, you said off the board, and then you're saying, I don't get the warm fuzzies with him. His playoff doesn't really sway me that much. Now I know that Eddie Rosario went 14-11 in just 412 plate appearances last year, and that deserves a little love because even if you don't just raw extrapolate it, you just sprinkle on a little bit there. If you can get back to 580 plate appearances, there's some quality there. But I think his playoff is driving Eddie Rosario up a little bit. And I have not seen myself taking him at all. He's only pick 168. He's not even super expensive, but there's so many guys around him that I like way more. Badu, Verdugo, Renfroe, Carlson, Kirilloff, Avisal Garcia, Robbie Grossman, Andrew Benintendi. So that's why I'm out on Rosario. It's just a collection of players that I like around him way better.
I am going to say, because this is the team I hate the most.
Okay. Fair enough. But all right. So this is your Miles Straw build. Give us the foundation before him. Let's get that out of the way.
Let's see. Let me go to the draft.
That led you into taking him.
So this was it was my second DC of the season. I decided to just take best player available through the first 6 rounds.
Okay.
I was at the 9 spot. I went Kyle Tucker, Freddie Freeman, Giolito, Lance Lynn, Nick Castellanos, and Jack Flaherty. This is a 15-team league.
Okay.
And then it left me in a point where I went, oh no, there is not much speed left. So I took Miles Straw in the 7th round.
Okay.
I might have some issues. I have some issues on this team. I'm not going to lie. I also took Nicky Lopez later on.
So you got Tucker, Straw, and Lopez for your speed.
I also took Dalton Varsho in this team.
So you got a lot of speed.
So I now have a ton of speed. So I don't need Lopez or Straw necessarily to do what I think they can do.
Sure. Do you have enough pop to go around? Is the next question.
I got Nelson Cruz. This is a Cruz team. Nelson and O'Neill. Castellanos, I think, is fine for power. Austin Meadows, I think, is fine for power. I took some guys late that have a lot of power in Patrick Wisdom and Bobby Bradley. So I've got guys I can mix in with power. There's a lot of volatility, and like I said, I do not like this team particularly. So
this is the problem that I have, though, is because I do think people probably come out of a lot of straw builds and they're like, "Oh, what do I do with this team?"
I think there's a way to do it. I don't know how.
You don't know if you did. Okay,
I didn't do it on this team. I look at this team and I go, "There's definitely some potential here."
Yeah,
but it feels like
is it going to come together?
I don't know that this is a team that the puzzle fits really well together.
Mm-hmm. And that's my issue. And that's why I said if I'm going to take Miles Straw, I have to have a firm plan. I think you highlighted my point perfectly. So I appreciate that. You did well for me there.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's get to your guys. Your first one, he's talked to death, but go ahead and give us your quick thoughts on Byron Buxton. You're out, I imagine, because of the price.
The price, the injuries.
Well, yeah, because of his health. And the fact that he's still
Mitch Haninger the same way. So
let's talk about.
Well, we'll talk about both of them.
I think they're vastly different. Vastly different in terms of injury risk. Vastly. One is an injury risk. The other, I think it's overblown.
Do you think it's overblown?
With Haninger, yes. He had a torn wiener. Which
it wasn't a torn wiener.
Torn nut. Okay, pardon me. Testicle. Ruptured
technically he has another one.
I'm keeled over just reading it.
I do not wish that on anyone.
No, this is how I spent half the Jackass movie too, because they were just destroying each other's junk, and I'm just like,
I have not seen it yet.
It was good. If you like Jackass, if you,
I do.
I figured, we have similar sensibility there. Go see it. You will laugh your butt off, but you will be doubled over like me if seeing somebody's balls go into their
it's the gross stuff that gets me. I can deal with that.
There is some gross stuff related to that, and part in the lewd chatter there. But I think men and women alike can enjoy Jackass if you like that sort of stuff. But there is a lot of destruction down there. But anyway, so you got that and a facial laceration because he got, I believe, hit in the face with the ball. you know, he did have an oblique back in 2017, and then the back injury in 2020 that required core surgery. But outside of the core surgery, what is the real issue with Mitch Haninger's health? And we just saw what he could do when healthy. He beasted. I think Haniger's being slept on. I'm completely the other way than you on this. You're taking him off your board. I'm moving him up my board. What don't we like about Mitch Haniger?
I think we forget that he was injured all throughout the minor leagues. One of the reasons
I understand that, but
so it's a long history. Like, it's not just what's happened in the majors.
But you have to go off of, after a while, some of that stuff like plays less. Like, he's going to be 31.
Sure, absolutely.
There's some of that, but I don't see it from a major league standpoint, like where there's chronic issues that we should be concerned about.
I'm just very uneasy, and for that reason,
I think you're just uneasy that he got his ball exploded, which you should be, because that's horrendous. I feel so bad for him, and like I wouldn't wish.
Maybe he can ask my wife if he can have one of mine, because she's taking those. So,
but I mean, he went 39-100, like when he was crushing homers, man. And I what I really like about Haniger is I think he can hit another 30 something for sure. I love the pop. And if that team improves the way a lot of folks believe it can, myself included, then I think the runs and ribbies could really skyrocket. Like, we really got a taste of it in September when he put up 27 ribbies and 20 runs. He was a run machine, by the way. I mean, he quietly dropped 110, and I don't think Mitch Haniger's getting enough credit for putting up 110 runs. Now, he played a great year where 157 games, you know, it's not his high water mark. Well, actually, it's tied for it, 2018 as well. But he has two premium caliber seasons like that in 2018 and 2019. 2018, 2021. 2019 was the downstairs issue, but he had 15 homers and 4 steals in his 63 games. And even though he was only hitting 220, it felt like, oh, he's going to come out of that because he's still showing the underlying skills and everything should be all right with Mitch Haniger. And then destruction hit. So, and then he missed 20, but like, I don't really care about that. It was the core surgery. It was only the 60 game season.
All right. I'm gonna concede this one. I'm gonna move him up.
Okay. Love it. But don't go back to hating him if we're in a league together, please.
Are we gonna be in a league together?
I mean, we might. I need to see.
I guess main event.
I need to see your league menu
in Vegas.
Yeah, we might be in the same one.
Yeah, we could.
We could ask Greg to put us in the same one.
It's random.
I don't know if it's random. Okay, never mind. I guess that's fair, because then somebody will be like, "Don't put me with freaking Phil or whatever," and you don't want any of that BS. That's fair.
I'm gonna move him. I had him at 32.
Okay. Wait, are you gonna move him ahead of me now? Now you're gonna make me look bad.
I am gonna move him ahead of you. I'm gonna move him to 23.
I gotta move him up then too. Not just like match you. I'm not doing it on some like, I'm not playing games here, but because of what I'm saying and everything that checks out, how can I not see him as just below Castellanos?
Yeah.
So I'm moving him up.
Well, and for me, it was like I had to move him above Yelich, injury history.
Yeah.
We don't even know what he is anymore. I don't love Ketel Marte in terms of his injury history. Stanton's injury history. I moved him ahead of Trent Grisham, who, you know, again, injuries last year, and we don't really, I don't think, know exactly what he is yet. So I think.
What about a straw Haniger turn to cover your power speed situation?
I would love that.
That could be kind of hot.
Wow, you moved Haniger all the way up to.
Hang on, it's there now.
22.
Yeah, so just right by you.
You just saw where I put him and went, I gotta have one spot.
I wanted him to be one spot. Actually, no. We're gonna match.
Is this like the time where you ranked 120 starting pitchers
and you ranked?
I purposefully ranked 121. Yeah,
it's very similar to that. But no, we're actually gonna match, because I am still gonna take Buxton ahead of him. But no, I figure again, Castellanos.
I have Buxton ahead of him too. I have Buxton at 20.
Maybe you should move him down if you're saying he's off your draft board, right? What outfielder is he going as?
I think he's going pretty high.
Let me take a look.
I'll take a
Buxton
look.
Is 16. Okay, so you're still below market. You're still. I mean, we both are actually because I got Buxton 20. I thought I liked Buxton. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm full of crap.
He goes.
I mean, I'm
He
definitely
goes
full of crap.
really,
But
really. I mean, I in his max pick is 78. I have never seen him go close to that.
yeah, I would. Yeah, I was gonna say something.
And I for those wondering, I've been using just DC numbers from the last month. So
yeah, that's we're both on that. That's our default is to do last month. Last month of numbers.
And I've never seen him go that late. I'm sure he has, obviously, but like he usually goes like in front of guys like Nick Castellanos and JD Martinez and Eloy and I just can't do that. I love Bucks. I hope one day he does stay healthy for a whole year.
I've
and
done
goes
the
off.
Thing. Like I'm not out on him.
I haven't done it this year.
But I don't get him that often because I'm with you, you know, and like where I had him ranked, I thought that was in enough early 20s. No, sir. No, it's not.
Outfield is very similar to third base in the sense that there are very few non-red flag guys. Like you get to a point, and especially with how many outfielders you need in a 5 outfielder league,
because of multi positions, it's not just the 5 times 15.
It becomes well. I mean, if you look at like my top 25 outfielders, only 2 guys are multi-position eligible.
3, right? Or do you not have Marte, Merrifield, and Tatis in your top 25?
I do not have Marte in my.
Oh, you know Marte. Yeah, that's right. You just said
that. So I mean, there's not a ton of multi-positional eligible guys in the top of outfield, but after you get past, like really, all throughout the top 25 outfielders, it's just littered with red flags.
True.
I mean, starting from the top,
with some great upside too.
Tatis has got red flags. Betts has got red flags. It's not like Harper's been super healthy throughout his career. Mullins,
he's been healthier than he gets credit for. That's another one I put.
It's fair. Mullins obviously has 0 red flags, but people will say there's red flags there. Acuna red flags, Robert red flags, Marte red flags. I think
they're on said real quick though. Like, I can't really get myself too far away from him, and I feel like people are just thinking that he's going to plummet. I get that he's coming off a career year and everything. You should put some regression in there. And I know you love him, so it's hard for you to have clear eyes on him. But like, I don't know, like how bad can it really get with said? It's a pretty firm line there, right? Like if we're betting on numbers, I feel like, and again, this is anecdotal, and I might be strawmanning a little bit too because I don't have an example offhand. So take this for what it's worth, and I'm going to try to go find that I can prove this more than just in my head. But I feel like we jam up the numbers on a bunch of guys and say numbers this, numbers that. And then when we get to Cedric Mullins, we're just like regression. He's a 1-year wonder. But like, what about the numbers? I mean, 19% strikeout, 9% walk, went 30-30 without an egregious BABIP, which was 322, or an egregious home run to fly ball, which was only 16. Like, these are not egregious marks. Why is he getting pushed down by some folks? When if you're using the numbers as a positive, why aren't they a positive for him? And again, I feel like I've seen this around. I might be being a little bit of a straw man hoe, and I'm sorry if I am, but I'm going to try to back up what I'm saying here and see if I can find stuff for next episode. But I just feel like he's not getting the love he deserves. I just don't feel
which is weird because you ranked him like 17th.
I mean, I've been taking him like crazy. Not like crazy. I got him in some ways. I think 17 is fine though.
I don't honestly understand.
I took him in the second round of that one league, the one that you didn't take him, and I roasted you. and I did that obviously like a little bit.
You did it for me,
but I wouldn't have done it just if I didn't believe in it. I wouldn't have done it just to tweak you. Because I mean, I paid money for that league. I'm not trying to burn $1.50. Yeah. So let's say Miles Straw. Like I wouldn't take Miles Straw in the third round, 2 picks before you, just to say, I got your Miles Straw. Look at me now. I believed in said Mullins, but I knew it would also play well on Twitter to tweak you. Like you had 2 chances and you didn't take him. Fake. But no, I believe, dude. I'm just trying to find what can we really try to hunker down here and figure out the real downside?
I mean, I don't know what the argument is. Honestly,
Is it just like regression? But then
I think that's what it is. It's
but
just
then as
regression.
everyone points out, Scott Pianowski is the one I heard coin this regression to what?
Yes, I don't know.
And to me, I look at the projections and I can take these 2020, they're mid 20s, 23, 25 is about where they stand. 23 homers, 25 steals, to high 250s, low 260s average. And again, projections are a 50th percentile. If that's where I'm getting, if that's kind of the baseline of what my expectation should be, I'm really okay with that from Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, because Bubba, who's part of my second favorite podcast duo in the industry and a dear friend, he tweeted out some Mullins slander
Behind us or behind Derek and Nino?
Behind Scott Jenstead and Erickson.
They are number one.
I just every time I mention that, I get another podcast duo that comes out and like, well, fuck you. Like you see the Alex Fast response to that.
Oh no, that's funny. What did he say?
he was cha go fuck yourself. Yeah.
That's funny. So okay, what did Bubba say about said the entertainer?
That he just said regression. And
we need a number though, if you're gonna say that, right?
And what I said was, looking at ATC projections. Look at ATC projections, and that was just the projection system I was using. There are 4 players who are projected to steal 25 bases and hit 20 plus home runs.
And he's one of them.
4. And he's one of them. 4. Like,
and again, I think a lot, and I'm not calling Bubba.
Even if he regresses farther than that, let's say he hits half as many home runs as he did in 2022. 1530 season with like a 270. I'll even regress him back to 260. I'll still take that in the 3rd round every day.
Yeah, I mean, I took it in the 2nd round.
I mean, that's Starling Marte, right? Like, it's not that much different.
That's the thing, because like Marte is an interesting case too, and he's not off my board or anything, so he's not a conversation piece for this episode. Although we're talking about Sed, and we're not taking him off our board, but like he ain't getting 47 again, right? Nobody believes that. That's an outlier. Like that's a spike.
He's going to a Buck Showalter run team.
Yeah, and he only hit 12 homers last year while he was popping 47 SBs. So I think Marte is more of like a 15-30, like you said as well, with the better batting average. Sure.
There was a season in Baltimore when Buck Showalter's entire team stole 22 bases. Like now,
in fairness, they didn't have anybody to steal.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that when we had this discussion when they hired Showalter. But that is still like, so like if you like,
he's not getting 47, right? Marte, like we
don't know what he's getting. There is a huge range of outcomes on Marte's stolen bases. True, I don't think there's that huge of a range of outcomes on Cedric Mullins in terms of his stolen bases. So like I know I'm gonna get 30. I think I'm gonna get it with a good average, and I know I'm gonna get it with probably 15 to 25 home runs. I don't understand why people. Like, people are reaching for speed all over the draft.
Yeah, except him, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like he catches Cedric Mullins gets short shrift, and we cite projections, and then when it comes around to him, it's regression. I'm like, well, what about the projections? They're regressing him, and he's still very good.
In my most recent DC that just finished, I got Cedric Mullins in the 3rd round, and like I'm like,
I'd take that all day.
Yeah, like in the back end of the 3rd round too. Like I'd pick 11 or 13.
Because like I said, I took him in the 2nd round, and it was partly to tweak you, but it was also because I feel like he's justified there. And
I'm trying to get an early pick in drafts. I want a 1 through 3, 1 through 5 kind of pick. I will take Cedric Mullins in the 3rd round every single time.
Yeah. And I think really what people should be basing their KDS on is how the 3rd and 4th rounds go. Mm-hmm. Not the 1st and 2nd right now. Well, I mean, obviously the 1st, like you want your foundational pick, but then see what it maps to in the 3rd and 4th rounds, because that's the big decision point.
Depending on who I get in the 1st round, I am not opposed to taking Cedric Mullins in the 2nd.
And I took Ohtani, and then I ended up taking Mullins in that 2nd round.
If I start with a starting pitcher, if I start with a Burns or a Cole or a Scherzer in the 1st round, you better believe that Mullins is on my list of guys to take in the 2nd.
Because you get your speed right back in check.
and then I can worry about my power in round 3, because there'll be the Jordans and guys like that in
Yeah.
round 3 that I can go get the power with batting average. The
Yeah, I
Teoscars,
like Alvarez a lot. I paired Mullins with Buxton, so I got some hot speed off rip and Lindor. Like who was going to
See,
Otani, Mullins,
and
Lindor,
those
Buxton.
like that's the kind of build where and I mean, don't get me wrong, I think my team's better than yours just because it is, but like you taking Buxton, like I don't have a problem with that because you got a guy like Mullins, you got other guys with speed,
Yeah,
like so
I
like
don't need
it,
him
you don't need
entirely.
him to like stay healthy the whole year. If he only ends up stealing you 10 bases because he's hurt, you're okay.
Yeah, it would
Um,
stink, but it doesn't
yeah.
decimate the team because
It's the
that's
same way,
not
like on that in that same league is the league that I took
Mondesi.
Mondesi, but I also backed it up with a speed other places.
Yeah, you did. You've got Badu giving you some speed. You got India throwing some chip in. You've got a little chip in from Verdugo. Where is it? Hang on. I thought you did have more speed than this because when I did the projection, hang on, let me pull up the Paul versus Justin projection. I thought you had more capital, big time speed. Oh wait, you have Kyle Tucker in that team. That's
And
and
Real
Real
Muto,
Muto. Yeah. Pardon me. Pardon me. Those were the ones I was missing. Tucker and Real Muto ahead of because I started looking at after Mondesi. So you'd already gotten 2 big double-digit steals guys before you took him.
I just added Madrigal.
Okay, and you got Badu, Madrigal, and then like I said, chip-ins from India and Glaber that are decent as well. So yeah. Okay, well, let's continue on here. Do we have anybody else in the outfield to talk about, or is that it? Oh wait, we got starting pitcher.
Starting pitcher, yeah.
All right. Well, mine's basic, so I want to get into your old crusty guys and your Colorado guy. Yeah, Kevin Gossman. Going back to the AL East, I root for him big time. I'm not paying the premium there. Going to Toronto, like no shot.
Mm-hmm.
He's going back to the house of horrors that is the AL East. For years, I drafted him as an Oriole, thinking he's too good to be as mediocre as he was stats wise, and I feel vindicated that he ended up becoming a star. Once he got out of Baltimore, didn't help those seasons that I drafted him in the past, but okay, cool. Yeah, he's right. But now he's coming right back to that same spot, to the same division at least. And I just worry about Gausman. So I can't take him at pitcher 25, which is starting pitcher, probably like 20 if I'm removing enough relievers. And I can't do that. So I won't have any Gausman, and I won't have the guy that he replaced in Toronto either, Robbie Ray, for the same reason. They both are coming off career years, new year to new spot, super high. I just can't pay the premium for those two.
Yeah, Gausman's going around starting pitcher 22. So,
okay.
Yeah. He's a different guy than he was in Baltimore.
Not that different. He's not that different. The splitter's better right now, but I think it can still go in and out. And if he's starting to get crushed in the AL East, we're gonna see the same guy.
I don't know that I don't. I think
how
he's
is
a
it? How is
different
he
guy.
different? How about that? How is he different?
Swing and strike rates. He's better at sequencing.
How much of that though do you think is the environment where he can attack more and challenge because he was in the NL West in San Francisco specifically? Now he's going back to another hitter-friendly ballpark in the most difficult division there
Toronto's
is.
not a hitter-friendly ballpark anymore with the humidor. I think that it may be the misconception.
I need more than
since they added the humidor, it actually plays as a pitcher's park.
How long have they had that?
I think 2 years.
Well, because they didn't play. How much did they play there this year? Is my question.
I think they second half.
Okay.
July 31st, I believe, was their first game, if I'm remembering correctly.
It played very hitter friendly or very pitcher friendly this year. In 2021, with no 3-year rolling, it played to a 96 park factor overall, which is 26th. So that's good. Okay, grant that. It only changes my equation slightly because all those road games in New York, Baltimore, Toronto, and Boston are still concerning. I will accept that point. It doesn't get me all the way there though.
Mm-hmm. And I think I think there's a chance, I think that the Giants defense behind him is probably better overall than it is in Toronto. You're also playing on turf, so the ground balls can move
Get through
a
more.
lot.
Yep.
Yeah, move a lot faster. So like I do think there's going to be regression. I'm interested to see where his draft price continues to go, because it's falling. It's falling since I just wrote him up a couple days ago on the 16th in the ADP market report.
Good. Should be.
Because I think that there could be a point in which the hate goes a little bit too far. Hashtag 06010.
What
It
is that
isn't there.
cutoff
It
for you?
isn't there yet.
Okay.
So, and I'm not extremely high. I don't have him as a top 20 pitcher. But I think that if like currently, let's see, his ADP since I did from 1.8 to 12.2, his ADP was 67. If he starts dropping out of the top 80 or even top 90, then I'm going to get real interested. But until then, there's just so many guys going behind him still that I like a lot more. Trevor Rogers.
And that's another big issue too with him and Ray, is that I just like other guys around there. So I don't want to take on that added risk of moving to a new spot, coming off a career year, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, Trevor Rogers, Joe Musgrove, Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, Lance Lynn are all guys I have ranked above him that are going behind him. So it just I'm actually with you in terms of he's probably not going to end up on any of my teams. He's not off my board, but he's probably not going to end up on my teams this year just because there's so many guys that I like more going behind him. So,
all right, so that's Kevin Gausman. Let's talk Verlander first. You got a few guys. So you got Verlander, Kershaw.
I mean, Verlander, Kershaw, we can just throw in together.
Yeah. Injury guys that like when they're great, when they're on, they're great. But you're concerned about how on they're going to be.
I need to see Verlander pitch before I can rank him even very close to where he's going. Even if I do see him pitch, I'm going to feel very skeptical at his age, change mechanics. I don't trust it.
I mean, he got his Tommy John in October, so he's so far removed from it.
Yeah, and I understand, but we just don't know. I know. I don't know what he is at this point.
We don't. The thing of it is, though, we don't know with so many pitchers that we think we do and we treat as though we do.
Yeah.
And so then I'm willing to kind of like I said, I've cut to the chase. I said, all right, I'm going to just take him. I'm going to take Verlander as though he's good to go and everything.
I probably should have said this earlier on in the episode, considering the whole episode is about fades. But I was listening to, I can't remember if it was a podcast or reading an article, and somebody said something along the lines, or maybe it was even a Twitter thing, but someone said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're gonna lose if you fade this guy." I don't remember who said it. I don't remember who the player was.
Yeah.
That is such an awful take.
Really,
you will never lose a league based on one guy you decide to fade
or get or win a league. No one guy,
especially like fade, right? Because if someone just makes you uneasy, if you don't want someone on your team, whether it's performance, injury, whatever, you are not going to lose a league because of that.
Correct.
It is absolutely a ridiculous thought process.
Can we also dispel with the you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it? You can't do either. I'm sorry. You could take Miles Straw in the first round, and you're not necessarily going to lose your league.
Yeah.
Like, stop. Like
there are league winners every year that lose their first round pick.
Exactly. Like people that had Acuna still won their league, or DeGrom. And I know that they didn't lose. Like DeGrom was a god. DeGrom's an unfair one because he was such a god before he got hurt. But I can dig deeper, and if anybody needs me to, I'll do the legwork. But you can also just go in the Baseball Forecaster and look in the front page about how much of the first round busts. And if you think nobody drafts one of those busts and still succeeds, then you're crazy. So yeah, I really want to dispel with the you can lose your draft in the first round. You absolutely cannot.
Yeah, I hear this all the time, like, oh, like people who faded Vlad last year, and there were a lot of people who faded Vlad who went on to prove them wrong. They did not lose their leagues because they
No,
didn't have Vlad. Like
absolutely
that's
not.
because especially when we're talking about guys like because it might have been in reference to like a Wander Franco or something like that, but
There's no way that fading him is going to cost me any league.
especially when it's in the 4th or 5th round, I'm still getting a really good player.
Exactly. I'll take Xander Bogaerts all day.
Yeah, okay, you didn't get Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the 4th or 5th round last year. You got Randy Arozarena, who was fine.
By the way, I can't believe how little attention his 2020 is getting. Now, he's still being drafted pretty high, so it's not like he's a forgotten player. But I feel like Randy Arozarena is treated as a ho-hum, like, fine, I'll take him at pick 60. When 2020 is really good, and there was a colossal expectation on him coming off of that playoff that he could never reach, right? Everyone's like, you're overdrafting him because he's never going to reach that. It's like, I don't need him to. I was perfectly happy with. I was a Randy Arozarena buyer. And I took my 2020 with a 274 average, 69 ribbies, and 94 runs. And I was very happy with Randy Arozarena last year. And I had a decent season. And he was part of every team that had success.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
or every team I had him on had success, I should say. I had some teams that had some success that he wasn't on. If that,
because I'll tell you, like you look at like Phil Dussault's teams, and Phil Dussault.
I'm kidding.
Phil, he's a really good player.
Not ringing a bell.
One of his and I think it was in the league I was in. One of his first round picks was a complete bust.
Who was it?
He took Bauer in the first round.
Oh yeah. See, I mean,
like complete bust.
Yeah. How many innings did Bauer even pitch? Wasn't he struggling?
No, I guess he pitched 102 innings. He was good in the 102 innings.
Okay. So not a complete bust then. That's more in the DeGrom category, I think, where
and he took DeGrom in his main event overall.
It's
102 innings.
It's well discussed that he was the first one to drop him and say it's time to move on. But again, we can find even much worse first round picks than Bauer and DeGrom, and people can still have success. So I hate that notion. Anyway, back to Verlander and Kershaw. You're not doing anything until you see them. I totally get that. With Kershaw, when he signs, like, is there a spot that he signs or something that you can see in spring that would get you in on him? Or are you just out no matter because of the back?
It's not back. It's elbow, right? He
has a chronic back injury.
But no, he had like a UCL type injury at the end in the playoffs. This is why he didn't pitch. So it's not the back. If it was the back, I'd be fine. It's the combination of the ending the year with the tendon. Yeah, ending with a flexor injury. And then the Dodgers don't even give him a qualifying offer. Ooh.
Yeah.
We
talked about that.
There was a rumor early on in free agency that he might retire. I'm not going to.
That's fine to not draft him.
Yeah, he's just off my board. He comes back like, hey, things open back up. He signs a deal with the Dodgers as we kind of, would expect him to do. He gets a long-term deal done somewhere. He looks good. Then maybe I put him back on my board. But for right now, nope, just not going to touch it.
Okay. And then Marquez, that's pretty easy. I'm not drafting half a pitcher.
And it's not so much you're drafting half a pitcher, because I'm okay drafting half a pitcher. The problem is I don't know what half to use.
Right?
Like, because last year he was good at home and bad on the
yeah. I hope somebody's watching. I just spilled water all over myself. Did it?
Awesome.
Did you notice? Yeah, I did all over myself.
That's amazing. Nobody's watching right now.
So. Good. They're going to watch on the VOD later and notice that I spilled water all over.
For those of you can always go to YouTube and watch that.
Yeah, I always put the YouTube link in there too if you prefer that, if you're like a second screen video type. But yeah, that's the frustrating part, right? You're drafting him saying he's a road only guy, with occasional home spots, if Marlins are coming into town or something, and you're feeling froggy. But then last year, Paramount Marquez goes and flips the script, and 4 of his worst 5 starts were on the road. 8 earned in 2/3 of an inning against San Francisco. You could have avoided that because that was at home. And then 8, 7, 6, 5, all on the road at Cincy, at San Francisco, at Washington, and at the Cubs.
He had a 3.67 home ERA and a 5.38 road ERA.
He probably was hell on people. You might have avoided the one in San Francisco on August 12th because by then it was clear that they were godly and you should avoid them. But you definitely took the Washington one. You definitely took the Cubs one. I don't know if people June 12th, if you were sitting him at Cincinnati, it's like, yeah, it's Cincinnati and it's tough, but like if you were sitting him in June on the road already, then you maybe should have just cut him because at that point you're barely using German Marquez. But yeah, we know I've been on this one for a while. Remember when he defeated Coors and he was the one who figured it out? I don't hear from those people a lot anymore. Where have they been? Because he figured it out. Boo. Yeah, that was so stupid. I mean, I almost felt like I was punching down on those people because it was just such an obviously bad take.
You were punching them.
I mean,
they deserved it though.
If you're gonna say something that's stupid, like, come on.
I've seen like some people say on Twitter recently, like, "Oh, there's a chance he's going to be traded out of Coors."
No,
they are not trading him.
They never traded John Gray. We said this about John Gray every fucking year.
Mm-hmm.
Until stop. If you're
they cannot get pitchers,
traded,
they cannot develop pitchers.
Yeah,
they cannot get pitchers to sign there. So like they cannot trade their one really good pitcher away.
Even with his goofiness, home and road, they don't care. What they know that for him is that he's a good 180 inning pitcher.
Yeah,
that's all they care about. The breakdown doesn't matter for the Rockies. They just want 100 good innings.
They're paying him like $8 million a year.
Yeah,
that's like it. Nothing.
The haul that it would take to get him would be Chris Archer-esque, but he would actually deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of haul that a team needs to start with. If you're asking for my Marquez, I need a Meadows, Glasnow, Boz situation. So I need a premium pitching prospect, a premium hitting prospect, and then a pitching prospect that is further away, but also still carries a high ceiling like Boz. That's what it would take to get Marquez, and no one wants to pay that because you don't want to give away 3 potential stars that are prospects. And I don't blame. That's the one thing I don't blame Colorado for is that if that's the price that they're holding firm, I hope that they are in at least the Archer range, and then you just hold firm.
According to our value projections on what his season last year was worth to them, even with the up and down struggles, it was worth $27 million.
There you go.
They're paying him like 8 or 9.
Yeah, that's 3x what they're paying him. They can't. And as much as we'd love for him to be traded, because we would love for him in fantasy to be not a Rocky, they do not have the incentive. They do a lot of stupid stuff. One of the smart things that they've done is actually not trade him and really not trade John Gray because he's under the same principle. He's not as good as Marquez, but under the same principle. You have a guy who has kind of figured out Coors to a degree and can survive there. Now, they should have traded him last year when he was going to be a free agent.
They should have QO'd him at least.
Well, yeah, one of the two. I'm not giving them any pass for that. They are the dumbest organization in this sport by far, and probably in all of the 4 major sports. But the one smart thing that they've done is keep German Marquez. So, but for fantasy, you and I, we can't do it. And I don't think people should because unless you're willing to
outside of best ball, best ball, where
I move him way up my board.
Yeah,
I'll take the 100 great innings I can get from him.
Yeah, best ball is fine because but it's just so hard to predict. I'd rather take Antonio Senzatella, 200 picks later,
or Gomber.
Or Gomber or Freeland, guys like that. Like if I'm going to take a Rockies pitcher, like I want no price attached to it because it's so hard to use because it's really just in a DC. You're looking for healthy innings at some point.
Yes,
like I use Senzatella a lot.
Colorado innings.
Yeah, in some of my really successful teams last year, I used Senzatella a fair amount because he was healthy and he was going deep into games and
he pitched pretty well.
He did.
Senzatella had a nice season, 4.42 ERA for 156 2/3. That's a nice little season from Senzatella when you got half your games in that park. So yeah, it's just a price and management thing with Marquez. He has value and it is best balls that you would want to take him, but everything else it's difficult and it's just not juice isn't worth the squeeze. Absolutely. So Gausman for me, Verlander, Kershaw, Marquez for you as starting pitcher. Buxton and Haninger for you in the outfield, although I swayed you on Haninger a little bit. Miles Straw and Eddie Rosario for me, unless I'm planning a straw build, although I'm just not doing that. Bryant and Riley at third base for us. Bryant for you, Riley for me. Seager Correa at short for you. Wander Franco for me. Muncy and McNeil at second for you. Jazz Chisholm for me. Vlad Jr., Matt Olson at first for you, Jose Abreu for me. Both of us share Sal Perez. You went Vasquez, and I went Zanino. And those are guys that were fading at their current prices. Things can change, but right now they don't have a price range that's really getting us in on those guys. And, again, this is something that's been talked about more than ever in the community about culling your draft list. I think it can be really valuable to go through and just remove the guys that you have no interest in. I know some people are scared to do that. Like, well, what if it comes up in the draft? Well, you'll see him in the draft room still. If you really want to like go back on it, you take them off your Excel, but then you see him in the board. If you really come back in on Miles Straw because he's pick 200, you can still get back in. Taking him off your board doesn't mean you can't draft them. But I think culling down the players that you want to take and mapping out how you really want to get your draft, I think it's very useful, and it's something that we're seeing more and more, and it's an NFBC influence for sure.
I think what it does is help prevent you from making the kind of mistake that I know I make, that a lot of other people make, in terms of, you're in a draft and you go, man, this guy slipped so far. I don't really like him, but he slipped so far. Like he's a value now.
Yep. And what do you do with that nebulous value? Like what is that value to you if it doesn't fit your team?
But if it's not really a value, if that's not where you have them personally valued.
Also true. Yeah. You're going back to ADP to generate this value.
There's something I've been, talking about a lot the last few years, that, one of my old writers at Friends Vinci Benefits used to say is, ADP weights a first place team and a 15th place team the same. For every good pick, there is a shitty pick too, weighted in ADP.
True.
So like ADP is fine to use, and you should use it as a tool, but you should not be picking off of it.
Exactly. And you should not determine your values off of it and say, I'm getting him at a value because of his 80. That doesn't really, like, again, that's nebulous value to me. What do you do with it? If you just keep BPAing too, like your best player available.
My two worst picks in my main events last year were based on exactly that. I went, he's way past his max pick. Or he's too good of a value here. I didn't like him. I didn't want him on my team. Charlie Blackmon on both main event teams, Zach Gallen, an injured Zach Gallen on another.
You had to quote unquote.
And I was like, this is too good a value to pass up. So taking guys like that off of your list prevents you in the draft to going, oh man, this dude, Chris Bryant, he's at 140. He's past his max. I should take him just because he's that far. And you shouldn't. If that's not where you have him valued, don't take him there.
Yep. No, exactly. And I think getting away from that and not hyper focusing on, oh, he's a value here. Again, what does that mean? What's the value? Don't do it. So anyway, that's going to do it. That's some fades. And it's less about these guys specifically, but more about finding your own guys and cutting those guys out and not taking them and not worrying about ADP when it comes to this guy's a value, but then the guy that you love is, say he's 2 rounds cheaper. At a certain point, those 2 rounds don't matter. Take the guy that you actually love, even if it's a little early related to ADP, because that doesn't, it just doesn't matter to wait for ADP values. Build the team that you want to build, that you have in mind. And if you were taking Blackmon when you thought you were going to get like speed that round or something, but you took him because he's a BPA with his average and being in Coors, then you missed out on that speed or that pitcher that you probably could have used. You can screw yourself. So anyway, good stuff there, Justin. I hope you have a great weekend, and maybe we'll come back with some good news next week about baseball being played. But right now it's kind of bleak, so I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
Take it easy.